Salute, Booktube. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. It's Tuesday, that means Tag Tuesday. I was tagged in a tag, but just before I get into the tag, I just wanted to say that I've been a bit busy in my private life, and that has precluded me from being able to watch as much Booktube as I want. The reading's been affected as well. I've made some ambitious plans for reading in February, but I hope I can still be on track on reading. For watching Booktube videos, those of you who have Booktube channels will notice I'm watching videos, but replying late. You'll see a comment about a video 2 weeks ago rather than on the day off, and that's again because I'm really busy. But I will catch up and get back on track. I hope by the middle of the month, by the middle of February, I'll be back to normal. I just wanted to say that before I get into the tag. But during this busy period, I was tagged a while ago now, but hopefully it's not too late to do this. I was tagged by the Accidental Bookseller, a new channel that I found. I did one of his tags previously, and now I'm a subscriber to his channel. He's more of a science fiction reader, if I understand correctly. I've only recently gone into his channel, but it's still a very interesting, he's an interesting booktuber. Not sure about the meaning of Accidental Bookseller, if he's an actual bookseller. But anyway, you should check out his channel. He's created another tag. Sorry, he didn't create this one. This was created by Aaron Read a Book. And it's an older tag, but Aaron Read a Book has renewed it. I think he renews it every year. So this is the 2026 edition. And the tag is called the Booktuber Name Tag 2026 edition. And the Booktuber Name Tag, you'll get it once I get into the prompts and start to answer them. In short, the tag uses current booktubers, their channel names as inspiration for prompts. You'll understand once I actually do the prompts, so I'll get started with it. Thank you again to the Accidental Bookseller for tagging me. So the prompts. The first one is based on the channel called, the Booktube channel called Violette's Book Daze. A channel I think is a newer Booktube channel. I'm not, haven't been made aware of it until now. But the prompt says, a book that left you in a daze, or a book that takes place over only a few days. Days and days. The days part, a daze like dizzy in a daze. I didn't really find anything, but then the other one, the books that takes place over a few days, or over only a few days. Now, a few days isn't defined what a few days means. I'm guessing a couple of days is what is meant by this prompt. I've got a lot of books. I could have probably found something that takes place over a day or two, or something like that, but just in the interest of time, I found 2 books that take place over a couple of weeks. One takes place over 14 days, the other one takes place over 13 days. That's the shortest I could find in the hurry that I was when I was preparing for this video, for this tag video. So the first one I'll show is called The Siege of Mecca. The subtitle is called The Forgotten Uprising in Islam's Holiest Shrine. And the author is Yaroslav Trofimov, a journalist who took a journalistic account of the Siege of Mecca. Now, what was the Siege of Mecca? Again, just to clarify to any new viewers on this channel, I am a booktuber based out of the Middle East in a country called the United Arab Emirates. Mecca is close by in Saudi Arabia, what is now Saudi Arabia, and it's the holiest, it contains the holiest, the city of Mecca contains the holiest shrine in Islam, the famous Kaaba, the black squared cube shaped shrine that all Muslims must visit at least once in their lifetime. Now, the siege of Mecca was occurred in 1979, 20th of November 1979. Some crazed Islamists sieged um, the, uh, the famous Grand Mosque in Mecca and took hostages and were trying to create a revolution, trying to topple the Saudi government. So again, it happened in 1979. I don't know if I made a good description. Maybe if I read it, it'll be better. I'll read the back copy. It says 20th November 1979. As morning prayers began, hundreds of hardline Islamic gunmen, armed with rifles smuggled in coffins, stormed the Grand Mosque in Mecca. With thousands of terrified worshippers trapped inside, the result was a bloody siege that lasted 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that's as short as I could find. Caused hundreds of deaths, prompted an international diplomatic crisis, and unleashed forces that would eventually lead to the rise of Al-Qaeda. Journalist Yaroslav Trofimov takes us day by day through one of the most momentous and heavily censored events in recent history, interviewing many direct participants in the siege and drawing on secret documents to reveal the truth about the first operation of modern global jihad. 1979, the idea of Islamic terrorism didn't really exist way back in 1979. This was one of the first sieges and inspired Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. And Osama bin Laden had praised the ringleader of this siege. And then that other thing, it says one of the most momentous and heavily censored. The Saudi government censors this event. They're trying to forget it. They're trying to hide this event, trying to cover it up because it was a bit embarrassing for them. It was bad PR. The other thing, which was controversial, is the most sacred site in Islam, and non-Muslims are not allowed to enter. Now, when this siege happened, they needed special forces, and the best special forces were Western special forces. I think it was the French. The French special forces were called in. They're probably one of the best at like hostage rescue. So they had to bring infidel French Christian secret or special forces to end the siege. So again, it's censored because it's very sensitive to the Saudi government. So that was the first one about the short or the books that occur over a couple of days. Again, a few days. They don't mention the tag doesn't say what a few days is, but 2 weeks I think is pretty short. The other one is this book I found recently at my used bookstore, although it's still in its plastic covering, and I bought it at the used bookstore with its plastic covering, and I still haven't taken off the plastic covering. This is Max Hastings' Abyss, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. So they put the year 1962, but again, if you read in the back cover, I won't read it all, but it just says, this paints a portrait of the Cold War experiences of Fidel Castro's Cuba, Nikita Khrushchev's Russia, and Kennedy's America. Then to describe the nail-biting 13 days in which Armageddon beckoned. This book is quite popular. Max Hastings is quite popular. I believe he's a British author, although this is very much about America and Cuba and Russia. But I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it lasted over 13 days, and I think this book, I was going to say, I think it was Jeff's channel, Jeff Reads History, who had recently read this and said it was really good. So it was on my mind, and I picked it up recently at the used bookstore. But at my used bookstore. But yeah, maybe a lot of people know it. I'm from a generation that didn't live through this, so this is very much history for me, 1962. But I think it's well known. I think most people, my viewers, are an intelligent bunch. They know what the Cuban Missile Crisis was. But the main thing was, what was the word they said? In which Armageddon beckoned, because there was the two powers, Russia and the USA, world powers, at the time in the bipolar Cold War era, they had their fingers on the button, and if those nuclear weapons went off, again, Armageddon. And a reminder that we live in a world with multiple states with nuclear weapons. The Americans, of course, who have used, well, they used an atomic weapon. The Russians, the Chinese, probably the North Koreans, the Indians, the Pakistanis, the French, the British, the Iranians are trying to join the club. The Israelis deny that they have one, but I think they're, for all intents and purposes, have one. So, these world configurations that are happening today, if we're not careful, it could get ugly. Anyway, we'll go to prompt number 2, which is sailing through books. This is a channel I do know. She's a really good, booktuber, very thoughtful booktuber. I think one of her most recent videos, she was talking about books while baking cookies. But she's, I believe, a Canadian based out of Canada. She's got that thick Canadian accent that I haven't heard in a long time. Because I went to university in Canada, so I haven't heard it since my university days. But it's good to have her on Booktube and to hear that Canadian accent. Her channel is called Sailing Through Books. The prompt says a book with a boat or sailing in it. So what I wanted to do for Sailing Through Books, to honor Sailing Through Books, if you ever watch her channel, you'll notice quite quickly she's got a fascination with the Arctic. Again, she's Canadian, but the Arctic, like the true north, like the deep north or the high north or whatever it's called, places like Alaska, Yukon, the Arctic, basically. So one book that I would like to mention here for this tag is this one. I read it recently. Unfortunately, I got rid of it because I need to make space. But I've recently read this. It's called Icebound. Very exciting cover there. It's by Andrea Pitzer. The subtitle is Shipwrecked at the Edge of the World. And this is the story of a late 16th century, early 17th century, so 1599, the year 1600, 1601. These were Dutch explorers who were seeing the Portuguese and the Spanish and the other Southern Europeans, to an extent the British, find ways to get to Asia and get to Africa and Asia through the Atlantic and then down south through the Indian Ocean, and they were monopolizing the trade with the East. And the Dutch, because of their geography, were a bit further away, and what they were encouraged or motivated by was to find a way, if they could get to Asia sailing north, perhaps going through Russia. Nobody knew how big Russia was, but they thought if we could go north and then turn south again, we'd reach China and we would undercut the Spanish and the Portuguese and the other Southern European states and increase Dutch wealth. So the famous explorer here was Barents. His first name I forgot, I think William. But anyway, they sailed north from the Netherlands, went to Norway, went all the way to the north of Norway, and then went into the unknown, the Arctic, the Russian Arctic, Siberia, basically. And, sorry, the light went off. Yeah, basically the rest is, well, it's not a spoiler. They get shipwrecked. They're shipwrecked and they're stuck. And this is a very well-researched book about that ordeal. Again, ship on the cover. It's about ships. Again, and this is just the cusp of modernity. This isn't when we had satellites or GPS. These were wooden caravel boats, like really early shipping, age of discovery type ships. But just the explanation of the shipwreck and what the shipwreck sailors did, the ordeal that they went through, just fascinating reading. And again, I chose this because it's a fascinating book. It's got ships or sailing in the as a subject matter, and then of course sailing through books with her interest in the Arctic. I thought that was appropriate. There's a second book I want to mention. I've also read this very recently. Again, I think it's Jeff Reed's History. Again, he mentioned that recently there's been Well, I read this book and I thought to myself, this could make a movie. It could be a really good movie because it's a fascinating story, just a fascinating story. And it seems that this book has been made into a movie recently. I think it's had limited releases in the cinema. I'm not sure if it's on streaming services, but it's really, really. It's not based on this book. It's based on the main character of this book, but just an awesome story. The author is Lawrence Beargreen, and the title is Over the Edge of the World. The subtitle is Magellan's Terrifying Circumnavigation of the Globe. And this is just that story of adventure on a ship, on a couple of ships. But, you travel the world again. This is early, this age of discovery. They start from Portugal, they go south to Africa, they cross the Atlantic to South America, they go around South America, they sail the entire Pacific until I think they reach the island of. Well, I won't ruin it. I mean, I don't want to spoil it. This is non-fiction. This is history, but I won't. They get into other Pacific islands, the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia. They accomplished their mission. They wanted to find a route to the Spice Islands and to Asia, and they did it. But they took the long, long way. I don't want to spoil what happens to our main character. People who are knowledgeable will know, but then they continue. Once they go through the Indian Ocean, around Africa, and anyway, I don't want to ruin any endings, but a fascinating story. And again, not surprised that this story, although it's not based on this book, I don't think so, but the story, Magellan's story, has been dramatized on the big screen, and I'm not surprised by it. There's one scene specifically. I haven't watched the movie, but I hope it's in the movie. Magellan was faced with a mutiny when they were somewhere off the godforsaken coast of somewhere in southern Argentina, where it's really cold. It's very close to the Arctic, and there were very hostile native tribes. And he faced a mutiny, and he needed to think of a punishment. The two mutineers were noblemen. I think one was a priest and the other one was a nobleman, so he couldn't give them a ignominious death like a hanging or drawn and quartering or whatever the naval punishments were. So he had to think of something that was appropriate for the prisoners, the two prisoners. And I'm not gonna spoil it, but talk about sadistic. Just I'll never forget that scene. Just I hope it's in the movie. I won't spoil it now, but I guess if you're really interested, you can find out for yourselves. So that was prompt number 2. We'll go to prompt number 3 now, which is The Reading Hour, another Booktube channel I am not aware of. I think it's a newer Booktube channel. I don't know the lady's name who does it, but she mentions in her bio that she has little time for reading, hence the name of her channel, The Reading Hour. She'll sneak in some reading when she can in her busy schedule. All of these channels, I'll on the tag, they're not mentioned, but I might mention them. Anyway, the prompt is a short, fast read you can finish in one sitting. One sitting. For this, I'm gonna show a book that I'm actually reading right now. I'm actually buddy reading this with Angelina. Her channel is called Books Do Things to Me. We're buddy reading this. It's very short. You can read it in an hour probably. We're taking a bit longer just because we're both, well, she's busy, I've been recently busy, and we want to take our time with it. But again, you could sail through this in an hour if you really wanted to. This is Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf. Well-known story, Beowulf. I think most of my well-read viewers know Beowulf, but again, it's short. You can see the line, that's where my bookmark is. We're reading it slowly, but this is an excellent translation of the Beowulf classic. Seamus Heaney, I think, won the Pulitzer for this translation, and I think he's recently passed away. But just reading the intro, he's of Irish extraction, but he mentions how, he heard words his aunt, when she speaks, or with his parents on the kitchen, in the kitchen table, the kitchen table. He's heard words that he is linked to old Anglo-Saxon, um, the old Irish with the old Anglo-Saxon. It's a passion project, and one that won him the Pulitzer. And just reading this, I haven't completed it. I've read Beowulf before. I read it in high school, and then I was reassigned it to university. I never, in those days, those barren reading days, I didn't take its significance, its genius, I guess. I never took it seriously, but reading it now as an older person, an older man, I'm starting to see what all the fuss is about. I don't want to get too much into it. I'll finish it, and maybe at the end of the month in my reading wrap up, I'll talk more about it. But so that's the one for a book that you can a short, fast read you could finish in one sitting. I don't know about an hour, but one sitting definitely. And then speaking of Angelina and the books do things to me, she's actually mentioned here. So the next prompt is books do things to me. Check out Angelina's channel. She's not posting as much as she used to. I guess she's busy, but she's still quite active on Booktube, trolling all of her comment sections. But the prompt is a book that hits you hard emotionally, and it says in brackets any emotion. So I'm mostly a nonfiction reader, so emotions. Fiction, of course, stirs the soul, and it has a lot of emotional. Brings out the emotions in readers. I read mostly nonfiction, so I struggled with this. I'm not a very emotional reader. Even if I was, I'd probably hide it. But the most appropriate thing I could think of was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now, this edition that I have is actually a anthology, or it's 3 books in one, a signet classic of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this edition has an introduction by Stephen King. But I'm the one about emotions, Frankenstein. I read it. I've read it also before, also high school. Didn't take it as seriously as I should have. Read it recently as an adult and just fell for it. And yeah, emotions. I guess that's the book, one of the more recent books I've read, which have stirred my emotions. I've actually, and for 2026, have been maintaining a sort of a common book, a commonplace reader, commonplace book, commonplace journal. I keep forgetting the name, but it's the kind of journal where you scribble down quotes from your favorite books, or just your quotes from reading, things that catch your attention that you want to record in one place, in one journal. So I'll give you some examples of some of the quotes that I took from Frankenstein. Actually, the 3 quotes I want to read to you. These ones are dealing with death, probably the event that stirs the deepest emotions, and just appreciating Mary Shelley's genius, her prose genius. So let's take this one. This is just a quote. It says, "It is so long before the mind can persuade itself that she, whom we saw every day, and whose very existence appeared a part of our own, can have departed forever, that the brightness of a beloved eye can have been extinguished, and the sound of a voice so familiar and dear to the ear can be hushed, never more to be heard." Pretty powerful stuff on death. The second quote puts it in perspective, death in perspective. It says, "Yet from who has not that rude hand rent away some dear connection? And why should I describe a sorrow which all have felt and must feel?" We've all felt loss, and we must feel it. So again, very powerful on death. I know this is a bit dark, but they're just emotions that grab me. And then one more quote. This is about rebounding from the grief of death, because we do need to move on. So I'll read the quote. It says, "The time at length arrives when grief is rather an indulgence than a necessity, and the smile that plays upon the lips, although it may be deemed a sacrilege, is not banished. My mother was dead, but we still had duties which we ought to perform. We must continue our course with the rest and learn to think ourselves fortunate whilst one remains whom the spoiler has not seized." So he said, I'm smiling. It's well, it's a bit of a spoiler, not a big one, but Frankenstein's mother passes away, but eventually he gets back to smiling because, life goes on, and it's not a sacrilege to smile after death. Happy days will come back, I guess, to put it more crudely. But then, what does it say? And learn to think ourselves fortunate whilst one remains whom the spoiler has not seized. The word spoiler, Mary Shelley, the Enlightenment, she doesn't mention God. She calls him or her or it, God, the spoiler. We are fortunate that we haven't joined the dead, so we should enjoy it before we eventually do. So yeah, those were the quotes. That's the emotion. Take from it what you will. That's the best I could come up with. Okay, this video is already 26 minutes. Okay, I need to hurry, but I'll try to go quicker for the second half. The next prompt is from a channel called A Genteel Black Hole. This is a channel I know. This is a channel I subscribe to. I don't think he knows I exist, but I subscribe to him. He's got a good channel. He's a very different reader to me. He's much more of the science fiction, much more of the fantasy type of reader. But he's got a very awesome channel. He's a very deep reader and a very prolific reader. I think his name is Ali, is his name. Awesome channel. I know he's got a few challenges, health challenges, but that doesn't stop him. He's on it. A real man. You should check out his channel. I know that because of his physical challenges, he mentioned recently that he prefers communicating through words, through writing, and he's linked his writing channel or his writing website, his writing blog. I'll link it as well in the description. I'll link his channel and his blog. You should check out his channel, and then from there his reading. Definitely you should. The prompt says, a book that pulled you into a subject or your favorite Terry Pratchett book. Terry Pratchett, I think fantasy. I'm not a big fantasy reader, so I can't answer that one, but a book that pulled you into a subject. And I'll stick to I'll stick to, again, Angelina at Books Do Things to Me. She's one of my best friends on Booktube, and she's been sending me books. She's too kind, sending me books. This is one of them she sent to me. I read it last month. I read it because I had out loud on my channel had mentioned that I was thinking about maybe diving into Russian literature, but I had no idea where to start. I was just thinking out loud on this channel, rambling on like I'm doing here. But once I mentioned it, she pulled me and said, "Nope, you're doing it. 2026 is the year of Russian lit." And she went and sent me a book and said, "Don't worry about starting with, do you start with Tolstoy or Dostoevsky or Chekhov, or who do you start with?" She just sent me this, and she sent me this. This is Penguin Classics, Russian Magic Tales from Pushkin to Platonov, edited by Robert Chandler, edited and translated by Robert Chandler. And these are Russian folk tales. Very, very beautiful, the Penguin edition, of course. Very kind of her to send this. And this has got me into the Russian, this is a good place to start, to get into Russian literature, because these are old folk tales from, some of them are hundreds of years old, that have been collected by Russians, collected, put into words, put into ink, put it into writing. And it's just, again, it helps you understand Russia. Again, Russia was really, until the 19th century, the 20th century, and communism was a very agrarian society, and it shows in these folk tales. There's a lot of barns and cows and horses and sheep, and, well, not sheep, cows and horses and birds, and a lot of bread, a lot of wheat flavored beer. Kvass, I believe, is the term. There's a lot of it's just rustic, sort of agricultural old Russia put into words with a lot of magical, fantastical elements to it. But that was I chose that book for the prompt again, just to it says a book that sorry, a book that pulled you into a subject. So I'm reading this now. I've moved on to another Russian book, The Master and Margarita, which I'm reading this month. I've started it. I've been engrossed by it, although I'm still in the early chapters. It's by Mikhail Bulgakov. So far, so good. So thank you, Angelina. We'll go to the next prompt is RiffRaff's Reading Renaissance. RiffRaff, I'm recently got aware of his channel. He recently reached, I think, a milestone 500 subscribers. Since then, he's added like another 300 or 400 in the last month or so. So he's prolific booktuber, becoming much more popular. I'm still I know he did to celebrate his 500th subscriber, he did a special Q&A video with Steve Donahue, another famous booktuber that was very popular. But anyway, the prompt says a book with a character from the lower social classes, I think because the word riffraff is in his channel, or a book set during the Renaissance, because the word Renaissance is in his title. So I've got, for two of them, I've picked two books. For the one that's a book with a character from the lower classes, I chose this. This is a book that's very dear to my heart. I've made a video about it. I don't want to, because this video is going too long, but I wanted to save time. I'll link to that channel to explain to you why this book is very important to me personally here in the Middle East. It's this book, John Steinbeck's The Pearl. Very important to me here in the Middle East, and specifically in the country that I'm where I am at, the country that I'm from. It's the history of this country before oil. So the country, the United Arab Emirates, has a reputation for ostentatious wealth, cities like Dubai, etc. But before oil, because it was oil that propelled it to super wealth. But prior to that, it was a very humble, a very hardscrabble lifestyle. And this book, The Pearl, is very similar. I'm gonna link my video to that, and you can watch it if you're so inclined to understand why I chose this book and why this book is so important to me. I've got visions for this book. Which I discuss in that video discussing this book. So I'll link to it in the description below, and if you want to watch it, you could. But again, the main character here, Kino, is a poor fisherman, certainly from the lower classes, who finds a great pearl. That's the basic. He finds a great pearl. It's a novella. It's not very long, but it packs a punch. And it has historical resonance to the place where I'm from. And then there's another one, or a book set during the Renaissance. The Renaissance, I'm in the Middle East. The Renaissance is big in the Western world. For us here in the Middle East and eastern part of the world, the Renaissance was, in hindsight, not the greatest thing to have happened, because that led to a lot of colonial. It led to the rise of Europe. From a dark age into a very into the it boosted Europe into its dominance of the last 500 years. So Renaissance history is important, I guess, for Western viewers, Western readers, Western people. For the Middle East, again, for me personally, it's not my biggest subject. Not my most interesting subject, although I have this book because I found it really cheap. It's a very nice hardback. I found it for a bargain, so I did grab it, and I've actually been to this city. The book is called Florence, A Portrait, and the author is Michael Levy, Florence, A Portrait, and that's what it is. It's there's a lot of prose about Florence, but any book on this subject is gonna have images all throughout. How could you not? When it's the Renaissance was mostly an artistic movement initially, before it became um, much bigger than that. But just all full of photos. And again, as I mentioned, I've been to Florence. Yeah, no, I was impressed. I was impressed. But again, the Renaissance, um, not the most pertinent subject in history for me personally, because of my background. We'll continue going. Sterling Reads. This is a channel I don't know about. When I searched for it, I hope it's the right person. The handle is Sterling Reads, but the lady, the channel is called something Quaker Cats. She's a big cat lady. She's got a lot of cats, and I think their cats make big appearances on our video, frequent appearances on our video. But she does talk about books. Another booktuber, another person who's crazy about books, like all of us. I don't know much about her channel. I'm still discovering, but I'll link to it. You can check it out. Anyway, and I hope it's the right Sterling Reads. The prompt says a book with silver on the cover or a shiny cover. The best I could do was this. Don't ask why this is in my library, but it is. This is Travolta, The Life. The author is Nigel Andrews, and that's the shiny silver. Most shiny silver I could find. Maybe I could find something else, but I was in a rush to do this, so I just picked the closest thing at hand. I wanted to read this and get rid of it because I don't need this in my library. I don't know why I have it, but I do have it, and I don't want to get rid of it without reading it. So I'm gonna have to find time to read it sometime. But I think the shininess is, I think, having to do with what propelled him to mega fame, which was the Saturday Night Fever. Is that the name of the movie or the book? I don't even remember the name of the movie or the song. But where's the famously scenes of dancing, and John Travolta dances in all his movies. So this was from the 70s. He did more dancing in the 70s with Grease. And then in the 80s, he did yet more dancing and hip shaking. Those 80s short shorts. I'm sorry. Sorry if I ruined your day with that photo. And then his career had a bit of a plunge in the 80s. He was kind of forgotten, then he was revived in the 90s. There's the famous Pulp Fiction. That's the scene, another dancing scene in the 90s. So dancing through the stage, very shiny, very silvery. That's the best I could find. Again, I don't know why that's in my library, but it is. Don't judge me. Next prompt is Big Hard Books and Classics. Another channel I'm not aware of, but check him out. It looks interesting. Looks like a cool dude, cool guy. It says, the prompt says, your favorite hardback you own or a favorite classic. Bonus points for a hardback classic. I do have some classics, but I don't have any hardback classics. So I thought I would show some of my favorite, two of my favorite hardbacks, history hardbacks that I'd like to share. And then I'll do one classic, which isn't a hardback, but we'll get to it. The two hardbacks I want to mention, this hardback I have, Destiny of the Republic by Candice Millard. The subtitle is A Tale of Madness, Medicine, and the Murder of a President. I've been singing the praises of this book. It's an older book. It's recently become a bit more popular because I had mentioned it in my video that this would make an excellent Netflix series or an excellent movie. And lo and behold, like a couple of weeks after I mentioned that, Netflix came out with a series based on this book, the story of this guy, President James A. Garfield, one of the lesser known US presidents, but one of the presidents who's been assassinated. People don't know about him or the era. I mean, you guys probably do. This is an intelligent audience. I'm talking about the general public. If you ask them about President Garfield, he didn't last too long, but he was a supremely qualified person to be president. He would have probably been one of the greats had he been able to see out his term, but he was murdered by an insane person, just like all the other presidential assassins. They were all crazy in a way. Whether the guy who shot Lincoln or the guy who shot Kennedy, the guy who shot Garfield was certainly. And I still haven't seen the Netflix series. I want to reread this and then watch it. I just haven't had time to reread this, but I'd be very interested to see how they portray the killer, because he's a dark, dark person, and he killed a good man. Highly qualified, a scholar, a teacher, finished top in his class, President Garfield did. He fought in the Civil War and was beloved by his soldiers, rose in the ranks as a leader of men. And then he became a statesman. He got elected president, very popularly voted, won overwhelmingly, but then again tragically ends. But this it's just I can't recommend it highly enough. And then another hardback I want to mention is this one. I really enjoy, one of my favorite history books. This is called The Great Upheaval. The author is Jay Winnick. Again, this is older. It's from 2007, but the subtitle is America and the Birth of the Modern World, 1788 to 1800. And it mentions the Enlightenment in America and the rest of the world. America and its world in its early days is just, I don't know how else to explain it. One of my favorite history books. I've read it a long time ago, but it sticks to the mind. It's a big hardback, and this is a cover with the deckled edges. But very, very glad to have this. Very happy to have read it. I'm due a reread. Well written, on a fascinating subject. It's not just about America. It's much bigger than that. But again, in the interest of time, I'll keep it at that. And then the classic, it's not a hardback, but this is one of my favorite classics. Definitely, I can't say I have a favorite. It's not a hardback, but it's one of these leathery kind of paperbacks. I don't know how to explain it. The cover is not that nice. It's well made, but the cover isn't that interesting. It's Tarzan of the Apes and The Return of Tarzan. And the author, I don't know if it shows, the lighting is terrible, is Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is a classic. The cover is made out of this leather. It's a very nice leather. This is made by World Cloud Classics, and all their books have this sort of leathery cover. But then it's the what do they call them? The front. I forget the name, but when you open it and then look at that cover, look at that, and then I think it's the same. The end papers. The end papers. That's the name. Very beautiful. Again, I'll show you one more time. I don't know why this wasn't the cover, but yeah, one of my favorites. Again, just in the interest of time, I won't go into it. If you haven't read Tarzan or Tarzan of the Apes and The Return of Tarzan, luckily it's anthologized, or it's both the stories are in this copy. Just awesome reading, tale of adventure, and it does have it's deeper than that. Definitely you should read Tarzan if you haven't. We'll go, I think there's 2 more prompts before I end this horrendously long video. Okay, Big Hard Books and Class. The Book Thing. This is another channel I'm not very aware of, but you can, I've forgotten now. You can check the channel out. But the prompt is a book with a the in the title, the word the in the title. I've got plenty of books. There's so many books with the in the title. So I tried to think, I was trying to be original, and I said I'm gonna try to find a book with the word the in the middle of the title. It doesn't start with the blah blah blah. It's something the something. But there's so many books like that as well. So I had to settle for something a bit sentimental. And that's Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Again, well-known classic. I wanted to show this one because this is the copy. This is my copy from my childhood. Regulars of my channel will know my reading history. I began my reading with. I began my life as a reader when I was young, elementary school. I was a reader, and I read this in elementary, and I still have the copy. It's battered, but I still have it. This must have been from the fourth grade, and I still have it. So we're talking 30 years ago. 30 years I've had this book. When I went into high school, junior high and high school, it was the great barren years. I stopped reading. And then when I went to university, I got back into reading. The reading habit came back, and I've been reading ever since. But this is the original I have. And then recently I found a reading copy, a much more modern edition of the book, Lord of the Flies, William Golding. I don't think I need to talk too much about it. Well-known classic. I'd like to reread it. The only issue I have with this book, the only negative is there's not a single female character in it, which is sad because it would have been. Recently let's just say it's women or girls usually in high school or elementary school are forced to read this, and I don't know how much it resonates. Definitely with boys. For the girls, I guess it depends on the girl, but because there's no female character, you could see why it's maybe not as popular as it used to be. I have no idea if it's still being taught in schools. No idea, but it's still a classic. And then the last prompt is the bonus prompt. The bonus prompt says a book that matches your own channel name or a channel you love. So for this, I have two books for each of those prompts. A channel you love. Well, a channel I love is a channel that got me into Booktube. I've shared the story of how I found Booktube. I was so bored one day, and I knew there was something missing in my life that I needed in my life, and I knew it was out there. I didn't know where to find it, and that was Booktube. I knew there was something like that out there, and I was just so bored one day, just bored. And I opened YouTube and I typed in historical fiction recommendations or best historical fiction. I just typed that in. And the first thing that came in my search was Steve Donahue, famous booktuber. His channel came up first. I clicked that video and I've been a Booktube aficionado ever since. So he's a channel definitely I love, I guess. One of the channels I love. I love all the channels actually, but I wanted to mention this one, and I wanted to mention the book I chose is this book I have. It's by Jane Grossman and Felice Yeager with illustrations by Robert Bowden, and it's called Boston. Or the series is called Footnotes, A Walking Guide Boston, with a very nice illustration cover, and then there's kind of illustrations all over famous landmarks in Boston. Some that paper fell out of there, sorry. Steve Donahue's from Boston, his beloved Boston. He loves Boston. That's where he lives. I don't think he wants to be anywhere else. Why I chose this book as well, because I purchased this book in Boston. As I mentioned earlier in this video, a century ago, because this video is so long, I mentioned that I studied in Canada, and I studied in Eastern Canada, in Montreal and Quebec, the French-speaking part of Canada, which is not too far from New England and the East Coast, the Northeast Coast, New England. So, and I had a relative in Boston, so I would visit Boston quite regularly during my university days. My cousin was busy and I was alone, so I said I want to check out the sites. I stopped at a bookstore. I purchased this book, and that's what it is. It's a guidebook, a walking guide, travel guide book to Boston. The one interesting thing I want to mention is I don't know if it's gonna show. Oh no! Can I get it into focus? Right there. Do you see what that says? That says the Brattle Bookshop. So, again, when I went to Boston, this was my university days. This must have been 2005, 2006, that time of the year, those years. So that's over 20 years ago now. I'm getting old. But I'm pretty sure I went to the Brattle. I went to the Brattle. I picked up this book. I had no idea the Brattle was such a significant part of Steve Donohue's favorite used bookshop. I found this. I don't even think I went in too deep. I don't recall a large sale yard. Again, this is 2005. 2005, there was no Booktube. I think YouTube generally was introduced in 2005. Steve Donohue is 28 years old, so in 2005 he was still a baby in 2005, so I didn't know about his channel. But I've been to Boston, and like any bookish person, I did stop at the Brattle. I'm pretty sure of it. I just found this. I think I found it at the front because there's so many bookshops in Boston. So I found this in the front. I said, "Oh, I could use this while I'm touring the city all alone." I picked it up. I purchased it. Um, so I have been to the Brattle, Steve. If you're watching this, I just at the time I didn't know what a significant place it was, so I thought I'd share that. And then finally, I think the last, well, it's the same prompt, but it was or, but I chose both books, a book that matches your own channel. So my channel is called Saracen Salute. Saracen is how you mention it, how you pronounce it. Some people find some difficulty not knowing how. It's Saracen. Saracen was a derogatory term used by European Christians in the Middle Ages, in the medieval and the Dark Ages of Europe, to describe the Muslims. Now, of course, it was derogatory, but the Muslims were penetrating Europe. They had invaded Spain. They were making inroads into France. They were going to pretty much conquer Paris. Of course, they were stopped. But they were stopped by, the forces of Muhammad were stopped by Charlemagne. And this is the book I wanted to, so my channel is, Saracen is a derogatory term, but I've taken it as a positive and used it as my channel. Why salute is just because I start every channel start every video and end with video with a salute, and it just sounded nice. But this is the book. It's a French author. I think this is translated. It's Henry Pirenne, and it's Muhammad and Charlemagne. That's the book. I don't know if the glare is gonna show it. Anyway. It's a nice cover. This is actually an Indian edition from India. A friend was traveling to India, was like, I can get you cheap books. So they gave me this one. She gave me this one. This is the story of when the Muslims and the Christians met, and the invasion of Western Europe was repelled by Charlemagne, or the ancestors of Charlemagne, against the descendants of the Prophet Muhammad of Islam. That great battle, which pretty much set the boundaries between Christian Europe and the Muslim Middle East, Muslim Africa, we can see later East Asia. But anyway, this was the book. The Christian Europeans called these Muslim invaders Saracens. I don't even know where the origin of Saracen, the word, comes from. I have no idea, but this was the closest thing. There's not too many books with the word Saracen in it because it's politically incorrect these days, or it's not used. It's not used in titles. Although Steve Donohue did share he shared a picture of a book with Saracen on the cover. It was an adventure fiction book. I forget the name, but this was the book closest that I could find. I don't have a book in my library with the title Saracen in it, but this talks about the Saracen invasion of Christian Europe and the repelling of it by French knights, basically. But yeah, that's the end of the prompt. I do want to thank the accidental bookseller. I apologize, his name escapes me, but the channel is accidental bookseller. It'll be I'll include it in the description below. The last thing to do is to tag people. I've made a list of the people I want to tag. The first thing I want to say is I'm going to mention all the channels that were mentioned as prompts. I'm going to mention them, and I'm going to consider. I don't know all of you guys. I don't know if their channel make tags. The ones I do know, Sailing Through Books, I'm going to tag her. Books Do Things to Me, Angelina, I'm going to tag you. A Genteel Black Hole, Ali, if you want to do this, you're tagged. The other ones I'm not too familiar with, but if you're watching this, because I'm going to mention you and you want to do this booktube, this book tag video, consider yourself tagged. And I want to add some other booktubers. JJ, the bookworm blacksmith, you're tagged. A shelf learner, newer booktuber. I think he's made a couple of tag videos. You want to do another one? Consider yourself tagged. Bibliophile Bookscape. Not sure if you've done this. I don't think you have. Mike, you want to do it? You're tagged. I'll link all these channels below. Patrick's book reading. I can't even read my own handwriting. Patrick, the Thai guy, the guy from Thailand. He's American, but he's expatriated to Thailand. He's got a cool channel. Check it out. You're tagged. I want to tag. The names. I'm really bad at names. What is his name? Anyway, you could be reading more. He always messes up my name. He can't pronounce it. Saracen, but you could be reading more. What's his name? I should know. Anyway, you're tagged if you'd like to, of course. I also want to tag James Holder. James Holder, I want to tag you. He had mentioned in one of his recent videos that he's been having trouble with tags. He doesn't mention why. He's just been poor tagging, just having poor luck with tags. So maybe this will help you rebound, James. If you want to do this, consider yourself tagged. And then one more channel I want to tag, Vicky, Vicky Southern Girl. She's a booktuber out of somewhere in Appalachia. I don't know where exactly, but she has a cool channel too. She reads a lot of history, and she has some cool books. Consider yourself tagged again if you want to do this. But oh my God, 57 minutes. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed to post this, but I'm gonna wrap this up because it's gone too long. Thank you if you made it this far. I apologize if you've made it this far. I don't blame you if you don't want to ever see me again. But if you do, I will make another video soon. But for now, I'll say goodbye. Salute, Booktube.